Okay, I have a question. I'm done talking about Nazis today.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to Muses of Mythology, a podcast where we explore how ancient myths become part of modern pop culture. I'm your co-host and podcasting muse, Darien and Smartt. Joining me is my co-host and brother, DJ.
How's everybody doing today? I'm DJ the Muse, and I've been playing a lot of Age of Wonders 4 again. A new DLC dropped. Very fun.
Okay, what is that?
You know Civilization, Sid Meier's Civ?
Yes.
It's that, but high fantasy.
Oh,
so you got
okay,
magic, elves, dwarves, dragons, and you can create any race you want. I don't know. I just play with my friends.
Fantastic. Well, it's not just us today. As you, dear listener, I hope you looked at the title of this episode. We are joined, we have a very special guest today. We are joined by the author of the upcoming book, Atlantis Through Time, The Writing and Rewriting of an Occult Legend. Give it up for Sian Ingham.
Hi. It's a real pleasure to be here. Lovely to see you from across the waves and 6 hours in the future. 7 hours in the future because we're in British summertime. We're in daylight saving.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I only know because I was literally just there and had to get used to
a month and a half ago, yeah.
Really?
I guess it's been a month. Yes, I should stop talking about my European vacation. It must be getting so annoying for listeners. But yes, I got to spend 3 weeks out in England and Italy, and we went to France, but just to go to Disneyland. And then my good friend Owen took me and my brother to Wales, to Abersoch, and it was incredible.
Oh, amazing.
Yep. So I got very used to just being like 7 hours out of sync, like sending Snapchats to my family. I felt like I was yelling into the void, like, I'm still alive. I'm having a good time.
Amazing. Yeah, sending pictures from the future.
That's
so cool.
Yeah. Exactly that. Waking up to all of the responses, and I'm like, is everyone good? Great. Okay, I'm going to go to the beach. But we're not here to talk about my vacation. If you want to hear that, you could go over to the Patreon where I talked about it for an hour and a half. I also went to Rome, which is relevant to the mythology podcast. But today we are talking about something. Yeah, it was really cool, honestly. Actually, I liked Florence more than Rome, but don't tell the Romans that. But today we are talking about something that perhaps is not actually relevant to the podcast, one might argue, because it's not actually a myth. But what would you have to say about that, Sean the expert?
Is it though? I mean, what do you call it?
I don't know anymore.
I mean, this is really interesting. I think what makes Atlantis interesting is that it isn't Greek mythology.
No.
It isn't Greek mythology. But
it's
a modern mythology based upon Greek literature.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a myth. It just doesn't date from ancient Greece, which a lot of Atlantis fans and a lot of people who think that Atlantis was a real place would probably be very, very strident about. But I think you can date the mythology of Atlantis, the real mythology of Atlantis, to the 19th century. But it's definitely a myth.
Interesting. Okay, because I was very curious about how, like, one who has spent so much time in this field and covered literally, it seems like every inch of it, would define. Because in the book, which for the listeners, so everyone's on the same page, we got an advanced copy. It was great. I'm going to buy a physical copy because I want it on my bookshelf. And I got a chance to read it. And as there's not an audiobook version of it right now, DJ has not. So DJ is here to provide the total questions that a person would have about Atlantis, having not experienced all this in-depth research that Sean has done.
Yes, and I'm really hoping that there will be an audiobook, actually. I'm really, I might even see if I could get to read it myself.
Oh my gosh, I love when the authors get to do their audiobooks. You could just feel the love. Not to say that audiobook narrators who didn't write the text don't love the work they're doing, but I've listened to both and there is something. But the professionals, right? This is a job.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, this is my third go at writing this
Really?
book.
Okay.
I had a go in 2001, but I gave up because it was just so big. There was just too much stuff for me to cover. I didn't feel that I knew anything. And then I did a book in 2016 called The Age of Miracles, which was a collection of essays that I posted on my blog that I sort of tidied up for publication. But it didn't really have any cohesion, and it wasn't really comprehensive. It didn't have a through line. This is the book that I wanted to write 25 years ago. And probably actually since I was a kid, actually. I've always been interested enough in this thing to kind of collect a terrifying library, a shelf of the damned full of books about, and in some places by, ancient Atlantean priest kings. I've got 3 books credited to Helio Arcaniphus.
Dang, if I had a nickel. 3's not a lot, but it's weird to happen 3 times.
Right, you know, there's actually an entire series. There's actually about 6 or 7, but maybe even more than that.
If it's a series account, that only counts as 1.
But yeah, Atlantis is a myth, and I what's interesting is I think it's a big enough subject that I am not an expert in parts of it. So the part I'm explicitly not an expert in really is the proving whether it existed or whether it didn't exist part. Right? Now, I mean, I have a point of view about this. Like, I will pick up a copy of Graham Hancock's Fingerprints of the Gods and will be able to go, no, you're just a racist fuck. If you'll pardon my Welsh.
Get him!
But, yeah, seriously, fuck that guy. But yeah, I think that I would probably not be able to properly debunk someone like Graham Hancock and stuff because I don't have enough of the architectural stuff. I can sort of see Graham Hancock, and I guess we've all know about Graham Hancock and his series on Netflix because it turns out his son...
He got a Netflix series, right? You have to know. If I've got any Milo Rossi fans in the audience, we all know who Graham Hancock is.
Right, yeah.
The Google debunkers know who Graham Hancock is.
Yeah, right. It's because his son works for Netflix in a senior role.
That's the thing they never tell you.
No,
of course
it really isn't. But yeah, no, his son is involved in commissioning for Netflix, as I understand it, or something like that. His son works for Netflix, so that's why he's got a Netflix show.
Incredible! Which is
amazing. You look at Graham Hancock, and he uses the same evidence set as Erich von Däniken. And his book even has a similar title. Erich von Däniken in the late 60s wrote Chariots of the Gods, which was the first great ancient astronauts book. Not the first ancient astronauts book, but the first one that had widespread popular crossover appeal. And Hancock uses von Däniken's evidence set and arguments to do the same thing, but say, no, it was an ancient civilization of human beings who were, by the way, white.
Of course. Because someone not white couldn't have possibly done anything.
And a lot of Hancock's arguments are specious because they're just obviously silly. Like, my favourite one is where he explains that the Great Pyramid Temple at Machu Picchu, Chichen Itza, is, what is it? Its circumference is 4 times pi times its height. And the Great Pyramid of Giza, its circumference is 2 times pi times its height. And he says, clearly, someone taught them both pi.
What?
Pi just exists.
I think that's just how you build pyramids.
Exists.
Yeah,
a circle exists, pi exists. We
see,
discovered pi. That nobody taught us pi.
All you have to do to know pi is to be really clever and look at a circle. And I think
You could just be fucking around with a circle and be like, I wonder how many times the diameter wraps around the circumference. 3 and some change, it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. One thing, 3 and some change. One thing that I actually touch in the book, actually, so bringing us back to the actual subject of the book, is Thomas Carlyle's great man theory. And the fact that it coincides with people coming up with the idea that Atlantis was real, I don't think is that much of a coincidence. It was in the cultural air.
Mm-hmm.
And the great man theory is basically the idea that any advancement in human civilization is the result of one guy.
This is bad and cringe. Very embarrassing.
Yeah,
it is how... I mean, you say that, but it is the air we breathe. We just assume it until someone points that out.
Mm-hmm.
And like the whole thing about, the Aztecs never learned how to use the wheel. It's like, no, the Aztecs did actually know how to use the wheel. You have wheeled toys from the Aztec era, but the Aztecs lived in forests up mountains.
Yeah, wheels not super useful for that.
Yeah. You only get wheels when you've got roads.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even the Incans had roads, and I don't remember them having many wheels. They did
because they lived
runner
up mountains.
messengers.
It's just not convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they didn't know how to develop a car. It's that no one ever built a car because it wasn't going to be much use. And again and again, we look at these things, but Thomas Carlyle comes up with this idea, and then from the 19th century on, there's an explosion of people who believe that because this civilization worked at pi and this civilization worked at pi, someone must have told them. And we ourselves often fall in that trap unconsciously. In the way that we do things. It's a lot like capitalist realism as a kind of concept, where we just assume that everything has a kind of scarcity to it, even human rights. And we just assume that if someone has more rights, someone else has to have less rights, because rights are a thing that happen. Rights are like money, because we just assume everything's like money.
It's a tangible thing, apparently.
Yeah, we assume that even abstract concept, love, is like money. And we just assume that everything has got a finite fund, even if it's abstract.
Very not good.
And yet, we only notice it when we're told it's not the case.
No, for sure.
Because that's basically the nature of being white Westerners, on the whole. And also, for point of contact to everyone, I am melanin deprived. For everybody listening at home, I am very pasty, so you know, and that obviously means that certain things I say need to be taken with the pinch of salt necessary to be attached to that.
But not too much salt, because it'll be too spicy.
I mean, I do live in Wales, but I do like spicy food. So yeah, I don't mind a bit of salt.
Just a bit, though. Before starting recording, we were kind of discussing, because you've been on a press tour, basically. You've gotten to talk about this really kick-ass book quite a bit. And I wanted to make sure we are actually getting to approach it from angles that haven't already been tread elsewhere, because otherwise, why have you come on our show if you aren't going to have fun here? And so, with the element of Atlantis, one thing I was really excited to get to read your book, because I am very familiar with like the pseudo-archaeology aspects of it, because my YouTube algorithm knows that I like to hear people yell about Graham Hancock being awful.
Hence the Milo Rossi reference.
I
follow his YouTube channel as well. He's
Atlantis video coming when Milo. He said the end of the year. I trust him, but I'm not as familiar with like the literature of it. Like I know Plato. It comes from Plato, but I was not familiar with the how do we get from Plato to Disney's Atlantis: The Lost Empire. And so I found that a really exciting journey to go on, while simultaneously being filled with dread that eventually the Nazis are going to show up.
You do hate to see it.
I hate to see the Nazis.
The frickin' Nazis do turn up. I mean, it is important to sort of basically lay out that if Plato had actually finished his final dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
even back in the ancient world, this was unusual. There are lots of incomplete texts from antiquity, and a lot of them finish in mid-sentence. This was my degree, by the way, classics. I actually have a degree in ancient literature, an MPhil, in fact. But not in Atlantis, funnily enough. But Plato's book is unique because most incomplete ancient texts are incomplete because someone lost a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're incomplete because Photius of Alexandria wrote a review of it in the Middle Ages, and nobody bothered to actually read the books anymore because he read them, so you didn't have to.
That was such an excellent section of your book. I had no idea that was a thing, but I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, right. So yeah. Photius of Alexandria was a bishop of Alexandria in the 900s. He wrote a book called the Bibliotheca, the library, and it's a set of book reviews. And it's the greatest thing to ever happen to classical scholarship because it has summaries of all these books that no longer exist. And it's also the most terrible thing to happen to classical scholarship because he literally read these books so you wouldn't have to. So the books that he gave bad reviews to no longer exist because people didn't bother copying them because Photius had written you a summary.
Oh my gosh, it's BookTube. It's BookTube.
It's BookTube.
That sucks. What?
And so Photius is one of the most incredibly frustrating figures in the crossover between the long crossover between antiquity and modernity.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those figures who both preserves and destroys. And there's actually a fair amount of that in the story of my book as well. There's also some other stuff about South American literature as well. That we had there's Bishop Landa, Diego de Landa, who was made the bishop to the Americas in the 16th century, and he went to the Mayans to convert them and stole what a literary scholar or an antiquarian would call a shitload of books.
and that's the technical term.
I'm in Europe, so it's a metric shitload, which is 1.6
obviously
American shitloads. But he stole all these books, burnt a whole load of Mayan texts, endangered the Mayan language. It didn't die out; it still exists.
Thank goodness.
But a lot of Mayan texts from before that era no longer exist because Landa stole them, including the Troano Codex, which no one really kind of knew for a long time what it said, because he actually created a Mayan to Spanish alphabet, which is wrong.
I was going to say, I was like, I bet that's not very accurate.
Outstanding.
And that's kind of important because someone then read that book, found a couple of things, letters that came up together a lot, thought that must be a name, which is a reasonable conclusion to make, and then thought that name is Mu, and that's a lost continent in the Pacific, which is not a reasonable thing. And this again happens in the 19th century. So these things happen. But going back to Plato wrote his work in dialogues. His dialogues are generally star as their protagonist Socrates, or as people of my era would know, Socrates. Best known for loving San Dimas. Anyway, Socrates appears in these dialogues of Plato, and he has discussions which are dramatized like plays. And so all of Plato's philosophy is written as dramatized scripts of conversations between people. And the last word is usually the Greek word aporia, which is actually sometimes used as an English word if you're very fancy and pretentious. It just means no one else knows what to say. Everybody's kind of like, oh, right, yeah.
And
okay.
everyone clapped.
Yeah, crap. It's basically I think aporia is ancient Greek for mic drop. So, but even in the ancient
was Plato
world,
a nerd? I know he was a wrestler, but
he was a wrestler.
Nerd?
He was a wrestler called Aristocles. I want to see a biopic of Plato starring Dwayne Johnson.
I think we could get him to do it.
Because he'd love that, but also
and smart.
He was a wrestler. Plato just means the plateau, the broad thing.
The Rock.
He was the Rock.
Yeah,
and he was a great philosopher. But he didn't finish the Critias. It was the middle part of a trilogy. It was going to be the Timaeus, the Critias, and the Hermocrates. The Hermocrates was never written. The Critias ends mid-sentence. And even in the ancient world, everybody was like, this is Plato's last thing. He never finished it.
Oof.
And a lot of people think that he died before he could finish it. Because it's written right at the end of his life.
Yeah, that timeline checks out.
Which problematizes what happens, because it's not early Plato. He's just reporting stuff that he heard Socrates say to his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Late Plato's putting in his own ideas and using Socrates as a mouthpiece and introducing fictionalized versions of real people rather than real people he knew. So Critias was a guy who, there's a number of figures called Critias, but the most likely Critias, as far as I'm concerned, is the guy who was the leader of the 30 tyrants, who set up basically a militaristic coup and ended Athenian democracy for a few years.
Damn.
Executed a bunch of people. Athens had lost this big long war. It's all in my book. Athens had lost a big long war. Critias was basically in a hard right coup that was sponsored by an enemy power and subverted Athenian elections and things, which is nothing like anything that could happen in the present day.
No, I'm not thinking of a very specific date at the beginning of the calendar year. No. Nothing comes to mind.
No. And the fact that, the greatest democracy in the world was completely subverted because of people who just believed that democracy was a failed experiment. I know. It's a thing that happens
in American.
It's a thing that happened back then. I feel it's not for me to tell the Americans what their country is doing. You can cut this bit out, by the way.
No, it stays. It stays. Outsider perspective is very important. Happy 250th, everybody.
But the story of Atlantis is told by the worst guy that a person in Plato's era could imagine.
That's such important context.
It's created by a guy who murdered, was it 20? One Athenian voting man in 20. Everybody, by the time that Critias was killed in a riot, apparently he was killed by someone chucking a brick and hit him on the head, and that was it, right? But he was killed in a riot, and by the time he was dead, every Athenian free man knew someone who'd been murdered by Critias's people.
Oh.
So, if Plato...
so he sucked.
He sucked. If Plato does a book that's called Critias, and it's about the perfect government, and it's part of a series about the perfect government, and you've got Socrates debating with Critias, who really was one of Socrates' pupils. He's one of the reasons Socrates got executed.
My guy.
Socrates got executed for corrupting the young, and Critias was one of the men who was responsible for this. He delivers a story about Atlantis. He says that he got Atlantis from his granddad, who got it who was also called Critias, and then he got it from his great-granddad, who was called Dropidas, or Dropides, depending on which version of the Greek text you like. And Dropides got the story from Solon, the semi-mythical founder of Athenian democracy, who apparently got this story from a couple of priests in Sais on his semi-mythical trip to Egypt.
This is incredible.
In a text that was translated into Greek from Egyptian, from a text that was translated from Atlantean into Egyptian. So it's translated twice and then carried down in Critias's family and told to Critias as a kid by his granddad.
So, even in the context of this dialogue, definitely a super reliable source. Like, definitely, really reliable firsthand account. Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's a lot of the dates don't line up. Okay, so there's a lot of argument as to about whether this Critias was actually the Critias who killed all the people, whether it was an older man who was also called Critias, whether because Solon supposedly lived so long. Solon probably lived, but Solon's also one of those figures who sort of like, there's about as much evidence to show that he existed as there is of Jesus. So, and actually probably slightly more than Jesus, because there's actually statues of Solon. But the point, but then there's lots of statues of Jesus, so who knows? The point being that Solon probably existed, but yeah, there is a sense that it's kind of cool story, but also the other two guys in the dialogue are called Timaeus of Locri and Hermocrates of Syracuse. And that's important too, because Timaeus of Locri, who is in the first of the dialogues, which also has a bit where Critias talks about Atlantis, comes from a city that was an enemy of Athens in the Great War that destroyed their democracy. It was a city on Locri is on Sicily, as is Syracuse. Hermocrates of Syracuse. Oh, Timaeus. There's no other record of a man called Timaeus coming from Locri, but he's a man from Locri, which was an enemy of Athens.
Important context.
After the dialogue is set, Locri basically screws over Athens. In that it joins with Syracuse. Hermocrates is the genius general who basically completely ruins Athens' attempt to win the final stage of the Peloponnesian War in Sicily. So, this is the equivalent, and I think I say something like this in the book, but it's the equivalent of, like, I don't know, Jean Baudrillard in Paris, meeting in a cafe with a young Slobodan Milosevic and a pre-career student called Osama bin Laden, and also some other guy from Afghanistan.
Some guy who's just
or like an early career Vladimir Putin or something. It's problematic. It's problematic, but he never finishes it, and because he never finishes it, we never get to the point. Now, no one in the ancient world believed that Atlantis was a thing necessarily, or at least
they understood what Plato was doing because they had more of the context.
Yeah, and they knew what a philosophical dialogue was. And Plato's the most important philosopher of ancient Greece. All Western philosophy goes through the bottleneck of Plato. People either consciously have to ignore Plato, or agree with Plato, or disagree with Plato. But he's there, you know. And
Plato in the room.
Yeah, Plato's in the room. Because he's the rock. He's broad, and he is the plateau over which all ancient philosophy had to cross. And there are a couple of ancient texts where people act like Atlantis is real, but largely these texts are a bit kind of problematic in their own right. So, for example, there's Aelian, who wrote a book about animals. I don't know if you've ever done Aelian on your podcast. Someone should do Aelian with you, because Aelian is amazing. Aelian did one of the early bestiaries. He did the bestiary where he described the beaver as an animal that has to saw off its own testicles to escape from a snare.
What?
It has to chew
Like,
off
I
its
know.
own bits to escape from being captured, according to Aelian. Anyway, Aelian said that the goatfish was legend that was carved on the crowns of the Atlantean kings.
Cool, man.
Yeah, cool
What
story,
a neat
bro.
thing.
But
Cool
yeah,
story, bro.
and
does
it's
that
quite
mean?
a bit of that. Yeah, what does it mean? It doesn't mean a whole lot, honestly. So, and then you have, there's a really good historian who lived about 700 years after Plato, so right at the end of the Roman Empire, called Ammianus Marcellinus. And he's the last reliable Roman historian before Rome falls properly. Because he's an eyewitness of stuff that happened. He's an eyewitness to the reign of Julian the Apostate, who was the last pagan king of Rome. And he was a soldier, and he was a responsible guy. But he's describing in his history an earthquake that destroys an island that happened in his lifetime. And he said, there was this other place as well. Sorry, can't place it, but there was this other place that sank beneath the sea because of an earthquake. But that's as far as he gets. So clearly he's basically just sort of going... Mostly when people talk about Atlantis, though, they mention Plato in the ancient world. And it's only, and then in like the 60s, after the Middle Ages, in the Renaissance, people start reading classics again. And you get people who start looking at Atlantis, but they start looking at Atlantis from the philosophical viewpoint. So you get Francis Bacon, who may come up again, actually. But Francis Bacon wrote The New Atlantis, which is a philosophical novel about some people who wind up on an island that turns out to have a perfect society. You've got Utopia, Thomas More's Utopia, mentions Atlantis, I believe. And you've got Athanasius Kircher, who's a Jesuit priest and artist and philosopher, who essentially puts Atlantis on his map of the world. But he puts it there because there has to be a continent in the West, because there's one in the East. In the same way that he puts a continent called Terra Australis Incognita in the South, because there's one in the North. And he does actually correctly call that there was a continent of Australia, but it's only because he thinks there should be something there because the Earth's kind of roughly symmetrical.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, I could... Yeah, but no, but yeah, but no.
Listen, you gave the wrong.
Wait, is that what we call it, Australia?
Problem.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
my
Australia is just Latin for southern.
Oh my god.
Outstanding.
No. Another one.
Yeah,
it's just Latin for the south.
You used the wrong formula, but got the right answer.
Yeah.
Show your work.
He's a smart guy, Athanasius Kircher.
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically his book is called Mundus Subterraneus. It dates to 1664. And he, it's worth reading. It's pretty smart thinking for someone in the 17th century, basically. So you have these texts, and occasionally you'll get things like Cosmas Indicopleustes, who is my favourite late classical name. Indicopleustes
very
means
good.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Indicopleustes means the man who sailed to India.
Oh, neat. Okay.
He was, I believe, a businessman. And he was a member of a peculiar Christian sect. He wasn't a Catholic. He was a member of a weird Christian sect that thought the Catholics were all going to hell. And
well, that's very common for every other sect that's not Catholic.
Yeah.
I think that's, speaking as a person who's raised Catholic,
every other Christian believes that every other Christian
else.
is going to hell.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like I'm reminded once again. I don't want to talk too much about American politics, but I was amused by the fact that Mormons are no longer counted as Christians in the list of religions allowed by the American Army.
Oh yeah, that was a whole
that's
thing.
crazy.
Oh, that happened recently.
Wait, that makes sense.
Like that happened last week
religion,
at the time of recording.
Yeah, they're still considered one of the recognized religions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then they updated the list, but instead of noting the Mormon Church, Jesus, Latter-day Saints, Jesus What is it? What's the
Latter-day
The
Saints
Church of Jesus
Christ.
Christ of the
Just
Latter-day
of Latter-day
Saints.
Saints.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you. Instead of them getting the parentheses Christian next to them, they just took the parentheses Christian away from everybody.
But there's loads of religions that they just took out entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
So
It's a bad time.
it's not a good time in the UK either, let me tell you.
No, it's not.
Listen.
We've had race riots. It's a bad time to be queer.
Oh, it's a bad time to be queer.
Anyway.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, guys.
Happy Pride.
But then on the other hand, that's what Pride is for, isn't it?
Pride is a riot. It's important
is
to
a
remember
riot.
that.
Okay, anyway.
Anyway.
That's nothing to do with Atlantis, but that's just a little bit of politics there for those of you listening at home.
Except, honestly, we could probably argue that it does.
Swing it back around somehow.
I mean, we can swing it back around.
This story, it seems like the way people choose to use Atlantis is constantly to reinforce their idea of the perfect
Indeed.
society. And that looks the same oftentimes.
It really does. And Cosmas Indicopleustes wrote a book called The Biblical Topography, where he argues that the world is flat, that it is rectangular, and that it has a lid. Because the Bible says heaven is a vault. The Bible says the world has corners, so therefore the world's going to have corners. And he argues this because the Catholics know it's round.
Ah.
And a lot of people look at Cosmas Indicopleustes as a medieval text and go, this is really important. This proves that people in the Middle Ages thought the world was flat. And it's like, no, it actually proves that people in the Middle Ages didn't think the world was flat. Mm-hmm. Because if you actually read it, he's desperately arguing that the world is flat. Right. And you don't argue that the world is flat in the way that he argues it.
If everybody is already sharing it.
Yeah,
exactly. Because if people just assume the world is flat,
that's how you do it. Is you just our flat world, and this is how it is. But
if people assume the world was flat, people wouldn't be writing books arguing that the world was flat. It'd be books arguing that the world was round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but everybody just cedes to Aristotle in that respect.
Yeah,
because Aristotle wrote a book about the world. But again, you can work out that the world is round by being clever and standing on one side of a lake.
Yeah. The math checks out every time.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen somebody do an experiment to try to debunk round Earth, they've debunked themselves. It's crazy.
Absolutely. So dear old Cosmas writes this, and actually it's Photius who wrote a review of Cosmas, where he basically says, look at this idiot, he thinks the world's got corners. And that's why there's only 2 extant manuscripts of Cosmas Indicopleustes that exist, which amount to 1 complete copy between them.
Oh, wow.
It very nearly was lost entirely, which doesn't strike me as a book that was seen as popular or important.
No.
Yeah.
So it's only in the 19th century that people start seeing Atlantis as a thing that might be real, and there's a bunch of reasons for that. And I mean, my take on it is that the reason that people really did it was because of Heinrich Schliemann.
Oh, I'm so glad you're bringing up. I was hoping that on the podcast we could dig into Heinrich Schliemann, even though it's not his fault that he's here right now. But fuck this guy.
Sort of is. Fuck this guy.
When I got reading this part in your book where Schliemann gets mentioned, I'm immediately jumping over in the Mythology Podcaster Discord, in the PJO Discord, and I'm like, cuz my friend Emily from Monster Donut, the first conversation I ever had with her was her telling me about how much Heinrich Schliemann sucks. Because she's also a classic. She calls herself, she's a classic scholar-ish. And I was like, hey, Troy, real? And she's like, let me tell you about Heinrich. So I was telling her, I'm like, oh my God, and now I'm in this Atlantis book, and here's his goddamn grandson doing this whole thing. Update, it was all a lie. The grandson didn't even exist. What a twist. The way this book is written is fantastic. I'm on a wild ride.
There you go.
I'm really kind of loving that. I really actually, it's kind of humbling that people are enjoying it already. But yeah, but Heinrich Schliemann. I mean, you've talked about Schliemann on this podcast before. Then
I think we probably mentioned him when we did our Iliad episode.
Yeah. Okay. So Heinrich Schliemann discovered Troy. Okay.
With dynamite.
With dynamite.
Hell yeah.
And
no,
he
not hell
vandalized
yes,
the hell out of it. He vandalized the hell out of it. What his mythology doesn't tell you, that a reputable archaeologist basically said, Heinrich, you're digging in the wrong place. You need to dig over there, mate. Which is my favourite part of the story. That he's digging in the wrong spot because he's using his copy of the Iliad, and they're like, no, Heinrich, it's over there. So, like, a real archaeologist knew exactly where Troy was. He just hadn't got round to it yet. So Heinrich Schliemann goes there, digs it up, vandalizes it, runs off with a pile of the gold.
Mm-hmm.
Does an awful lot of self-promotion, and this is the important thing. The self-promotion story is the romantic story of a man who believed that the Iliad was real, and then proved that it was real because he discovered Troy, and then he found an ancient tomb with a golden mask on a corpse and pulled the mask off the corpse and said, I have gazed upon the face of Agamemnon. It's much like Howard Carter's wonderful things line. Something
it's
not actually said
it...
that's part of the mythology.
Insanely self-aggrandizing.
Hey, also, Heinrich, why would Agamemnon be there?
Right?
Why would he be in Troy? He wouldn't be in Troy. His wife kills him with an axe.
In Athens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mycenae. Not Athens, Mycenae.
Mycenae. Yeah.
Sorry, archaeologists. That's why I'm not an archaeologist. Anyway, yeah. So, but then in 1912, a man claiming to be his grandson said that How I Found the Lost Atlantis, the Source of All Civilization by Paul Schliemann. And he said that he was his grandson, and gives a story about Heinrich Schliemann basically had a document that he wanted to keep until after he died, which contained Atlantean artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
None of which have ever been located since the article was published. Mm. In one of William Randolph Hearst's yellow journalism newspapers, by the way. It was in the New York American, one of those sort of jingoistic sort of. Obviously this isn't a thing that happens anymore, but you got an incredibly rich person, rich technocrat who basically had newspapers that said exactly what he wanted them to say.
Yeah, thank goodness we don't let that happen anymore.
Thank goodness that doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, Randolph Hearst, or the original blueprint for Citizen Kane, was kind of had this paper that runs this article by Paul Schliemann. It's unverifiable, but also the most unbelievable part of it is, why on earth would Heinrich Schliemann, of all people, hide a reason to be famous?
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense.
How do I want to word this? I was so mad reading that part because I was mad at myself for how much fun I was having reading about the grandsons. Like, because I know it's all bogus. Like, I didn't know the grandson was fake and how big of a hoax it was. But I knew that story, like, this is not real, this does not happen. But I had so much fun imagining it, right? The adventure, the Indiana Jones of it, the Mummy 1999 of it all, right? Like, I, for a second, was like, oh, this would honestly make such a fun pulpy movie concept.
You just need Rachel Weisz and an effete Scottish guy and you sort it.
And then exactly. And then I was like, ooh, this is how you let the alt-right in. Close that door.
And unfortunately it is as well.
No, you to make sure that they don't come in is you just recognize that it's all fucking fake and fiction.
But you can do that all you want. You can put it in a comic book and they'll still hijack it.
Yeah.
I guess what you do is you cast no white person and only trans people, and maybe they don't touch it.
You just keep it that way.
Yeah,
keep it.
No. They ruin everything.
They ruin everything.
And so, by the end of the 19th century, though, someone had basically decided that they were going to prove that Atlantis was real too, and that the person who wrote the most important book about that was Ignatius Donnelly, who again, another one of those figures who you start off reading his stuff and you think, fuck this guy. And at the end, you think, oh, mate, oh, Ignatius, oh, dude, friend, you meant so well.
Right, you just, oh, buddy, that's just, maybe pick a different hobby.
I mean, he did. Once he was done with Atlantis, he tried to prove that Francis Bacon wrote the works of Shakespeare. But
oh, damn it, Ignatius!
But he was also a politician. He was an American politician from Minnesota, and he was one of the most progressive politicians of his era. Someone who, you know, could probably have a drink with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he started to set up a cooperative, a sort of housing cooperative set up in a place called Ninninja City, which was destroyed by the Panic of 1857, which is historically the first worldwide crash caused by the American stock market.
Neat. Super sorry about that, guys. We would like to apologize to everybody about that and the many times it happened.
What do you mean?
And he was a radical, and he wrote an amazing thing called the Omaha Platform. From the same prolific womb of governmental injustice, we breed the two great classes, tramps and millionaires.
Damn.
Yeah. You gotta love that guy. But at the same time, he writes his Atlantis book, and he basically works on the principle, which is the foundational principle of all pseudo-archaeology since. Pyramids in Egypt, pyramids in South America, what are the chances?
Oh.
That's basically it. I mean, obviously, it's like the easiest way to build a structurally solid building.
We just did our Egyptian mythology season, and so many times we're like, if one person mentions aliens or Atlantis in our comments, you are blocked. Pyramids are so easy to build before you have cranes.
Except, they're not even that easy to build, because the other thing, everybody who starts going, someone must have taught the Egyptians how to build pyramids, because they're all perfect. And it's like, have you seen the bent pyramid at Saqqara? It's shit.
No, there's so many. Yeah, the ones we have are perfect because those are the ones that were built well and lasted.
But there are rubbish pyramids. There are bad pyramids. There are wonky pyramids. Right, early pyramids. The bent pyramid is my favourite because they ran out of stone halfway. They built it too steep and had to correct halfway. So it's sort of capped off at the top.
Outstanding.
You should Google that because it's amazing if you're interested later.
So wild, yeah.
But Donnelly says that, but he uses his argument to basically try and prove that racism is a bad idea.
Noble.
Always has been.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically puts forward the opinion that we're all from Atlantis in the past, that we came from a melting pot, and that all these people are our brothers. He was passionately anti-slavery. He tried to introduce legislation into Congress several times to give rights to former freed slaves and things. He was very much a sort of, you do read some of his stuff now and you go, I know you don't mean it, Iggy, but that was a bit racist. But he's a 19th century guy. But he's trying to basically prove that all people are brothers. And they all came from Atlantis. And he wrote this world-conquering book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, which was so popular. I had a sequel, which is called Ragnarok, the Age of Fire and Gravel, which I always feel should be the title of a metal album.
It's a really good title. Isn't it? Good.
I mean, you did Norse mythology the other week. You know about this. So yeah, and then once he was done with Atlantis, he wrote a book called The Great Cryptogram, which was about Francis Bacon. And did people continue to follow on in Ignatius Donnelly's footsteps and try to prove that Atlantis was the reason that racism is a crock?
I mean, I read the answer to the book, but DJ, what do you think?
Oh, of racism? No, but they absolutely they followed the fact that, oh, Atlantis is real, but they didn't care about the racism part of it at all, probably.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
Or they did, but like the opposite. But they cared about it, but like the bad way.
They cared about it. It was like, but like actually Atlantis was for us white folk.
Nailed it.
Kind of. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but also okay, so we talked about this before we started recording, but you sort of said, is there anything that you feel that you've talked about a lot in everybody else's podcast? And I basically was like, yeah, Nazis.
Yeah.
So we're going to scoot over the Nazis thing.
We're going to acknowledge it happened. That's a thing.
We're going to acknowledge it happened. So
John has talked about it many other places. You can go find that there.
Yes, indeed. The short version is that the founder of the first Western New Age movement, Madame Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, which was the first organized New Age movement in the West, had an entire set of mythology about Atlantis and Lemuria, and we're not going to talk that much about Lemuria. We might, but it's the other lost continent. It's sort of the sort of B-side lost continent, and she basically absorbed the idea that the human race was 3 separate species.
Gross.
Among her followers, William Scott Elliot, Charles Webster Leadbetter, these people then basically said that the Atlanteans were actually the original Asian and Middle Eastern people, and that there was a subrace of the Atlanteans who were called the original Semites, that is, the Jews, and that the Atlanteans were superseded by the current root race of mankind, who inherited the earth from them, as thousands of years in the future they will be inherited, the greatest race of mankind, who were the Aryans.
Oh, yes. You hate to see
Gonna have to return to Hyperborea. Gotta get to Agartha.
All of that stuff, it's all related. Thule. The most important thing is, and this is actually a mistake that I've made earlier in my research and earlier in the writing of my book, and to basically think that the Nazis were actually given these ideas by the occult, that they got these ideas from occult sources. In fact, actually, it's that these occult sources agreed with stuff that the Nazis were into. And what they tended to do, they actually outlawed theosophy because it was pacifist. And instead came up with their own Aryan version called Ariosophy. Where they basically had theosophy without the problematic bits about universal brotherhood and raising these lesser races to become like us. Right part. The sort of paternalistic stuff, which is also still pretty racist.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, but that isn't exterminationist racism. That's kind of paternalistic racism, and we don't like that. You know,
No.
we want to have a new age movement of war, so we'll turn that. But these are things that they co-opted and made palatable to the politics because there were things that they liked in them. And I mean, obviously, this is a difficult thing for a 21st century American to imagine about a hard right society that basically takes one of the great religions and creates a version of it that basically sort of props it up. And gives it a divine
thank goodness that doesn't happen anymore.
Thank goodness that doesn't happen anymore. But the Nazis did that. And that's the thing. And I think the important thing is that, yeah, it's a thing that was co-opted and used. And it's very easy to use because a lot of the people who wrote books about Atlantis were big fans of like 19th century thinkers like Samuel Morton, who was the original race science guy at the very beginning of the 19th century. And yeah, Donnelly was not a fan of Samuel Morton and argues against him strenuously, but a lot of people absorbed those ideas and brought them into the public sphere. And so Atlantis does unfortunately have a long-lasting association with some very, very unpleasant and exterminationist political ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not good. You really do hate to see it.
It makes it hard just to have fun in the space. Like what you described as like the Atlantis trope in what are meant to be like fictional adventure stories.
Right. It really does. And this is sort of the reason why the first take on this book that I tried to write 25 years ago, when I was still a wet behind the ears student, apart from the fact that I was just finishing off my master's thesis, so I was just like going, I can write anything, I can research, and then as I researched it, I'm like going, actually, this is racist, and then it stopped being fun.
Yeah.
And when it stopped being fun, I lost all, and also bigger than I could imagine. I had to basically find a niche. So one of the things that I sort of say in my book is that I'm writing about Atlantography and not Atlantology. Atlantology is the study of Atlantis. Atlantography is the writing of Atlantis.
Mm.
And so I've been looking a lot at how people have written about Atlantis and have presented Atlantis. And what that's generally meant is that there's been since the 19th century, in fact, there's been a conversation with popular genre fiction back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people in the occult New Age realm who believe they have past lives in Atlantis or are talking with ancient Atlantean priest kings, whose stuff reflects the popular fiction of the day, or in one case even plagiarizes it directly.
There's just a lot. Yeah, that's another thing. And I'm like, you bitches are just plagiarizing left and right. You thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
And that guy, and the thing is, right, that guy has, I'm talking about Dr. Maurice Doreal.
This bitch.
Or Claude Doggins of Oklahoma, which was his real name. And he set up a correspondence course cult. He wrote a book called The Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean in about sometime between 1932 and 1938, but the publication date is wobbly. Because he self-published it and didn't bother to put a copyright notice in it.
Because you mentioned that in the footnote about the publication date, and I was like, I need to ask Sean why this is. It's like, why is like the quote is lots of things are problematic about this, including the publication date. And I'm like, what is that? Hey, your footnotes are great, by the way. I found them delightful. You mentioned the magic pinball machine in D&D, and your footnotes are like, I didn't make this up. Like there's so many like, that's the citation, and occasionally here's just a little bit of commentary. I'm like, it's like I'm reading Terry Pratchett. This is the best.
The AC9, the Book of Wondrous Inventions, 1987, a Dungeons and Dragons supplement that includes a washing machine that involves skeletons inside it who put the clothes on and jump up and down while being sprayed with water. Nice. And a gnomish ATM that has a little gnome sitting behind it on a desk with a banker's machine. When you put a gem in, they give you sort of like a promissory note through the machine. Mm-hmm. And a pinball machine. But yeah, and there's
the Emerald Tablets.
The Emerald Tablets, yes. Maurice Doreal claimed that in 1927 he went to Egypt and he found a secret chamber under the Sphinx. And another one under the Great Pyramid of Giza, of Cheops. There he met with Thoth, a 10,000-year-old immortal priest king of Atlantis who had given the Egyptian god his name. Thoth showed him his Book of Secrets, the Emerald Tablets, which was made. The pages are giant tablets of emerald green stone, spiral bound with gold for convenience.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Classic.
Presumably, and they're all written in Atlantean, but that's okay because if you've got the right psychic vibes, you can
pass the vibe check.
I can't believe it's been a while, but welcome back, John Smith. We love to see it.
Absolutely. Didn't he have a pair of spectacles?
No,
Joseph
Smith. Yeah. He put them in a hat and would read them.
Yeah.
Face in the hat, and then said he was translating it.
I haven't read the Book of Mormon. I love the fact that there's an entire religion founded on fan fiction.
Listen, all that knowledge comes from the South Park episode.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Book of Mormon because I could actually wax lyrical about that.
I'm sure you could.
Yeah.
I've already carved a niche for myself. Okay, yes. So the Emerald Tablets tell the story of Atlantis, and they also talk about the strange cosmic creatures of the outer worlds that if you psychically travel, you can meet. They talk about the conspiracy of reptilian beings that disguise themselves as human elites.
Yes, the reptiles.
So there's a xenophobia.
Which David Icke got the idea of the lizard people from.
Yes, the lizard
It's
people.
in
We love to see that.
Children of the Matrix, 1999. David Icke talks about the great researcher Maurice Doreal. He got this, and he describes these things. And he also talks of the Hounds of the Barrier, where if you travel, send your consciousness through time, you will meet the Hounds of the Barrier, and they will chase you, but only through the angles of time, not through the curves.
Oh, good.
Okay, and this is the thing. All right, in a previous life, I was a professional writer of fantasy role-playing games.
Ooh, okay,
I made
so
a living writing games mostly for a company called White Wolf many years ago, but also
Hey, that's really fucking cool.
The vampire games.
Oh,
But also I wrote
go.
some stuff for a game called Call of Cthulhu,
Wow.
which is the H.P. Lovecraft game. And I was like, hang on, this paragraph looks familiar. So I go to my shelf, I find a copy of Tales of the Cthulhu Mythos, which includes a story called The Hounds of Tindalos by Frank Belknap Long. And yes, it's plagiarized directly from that. And then I look at the Lizard Men thing, which also looked really familiar to me. It's like, this is what inspired David Icke, but I look at it, and that's plagiarized directly from a story called The Shadow People by Robert E. Howard, who is now best known as the creator of Conan the Barbarian.
I was floored when Howard showed up in the book. I actually started making a list of people I didn't expect to be there. I was like, hi, Howard. Oh, Lovecraft, you're here too? Of course you are.
Well, they both wrote stories set in Atlantis.
And you see, I just didn't know that. I knew them from their other things.
Yeah, but Atlantis is part of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythology.
Of course it would be. Deep sea elder gods? Yeah.
What happened was that in 1932, these stories weren't in print. They had been published in the 20s in the pages of Weird Tales, which was at the time the reason it's a pulp, because it's called a pulp, was it was on cheap paper. It wasn't expected to be kept. Maurice Doreal basically cribbed from pulp science fiction magazines from a few years ago because he fully expected no one else to ever read these stories, not realizing
we wouldn't notice, but we did.
That 10 years later, a man named August Derleth decided that he wanted to keep in print the stories of Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, and their friends.
Outstanding. We'd love to see
and publish them in books, which from the 40s, 50s, 60s through to the 80s grew in popularity to the extent that now they are regarded as classics of the fantasy genre. Even though in 1932, if you hadn't picked up those copies of that cheap-ass magazine, you wouldn't know them. So David Icke's Lizardmen theory comes from something directly plagiarized from a story by the creator of Conan the Barbarian.
Nice.
Are you the first person to have clocked that? Or is that something...
I am the first person who's written it in any book.
Who's put it in print? Maybe
I'm the first person who's put it in print in a book that I've read.
Okay.
So someone might have put that in print.
Yeah.
Okay. But it may be in print. Okay. And I know people have written about Maurice Doreal before. But So, for example, there's Donna Cossie wrote a book called Kooks, which is a great book if you can find a copy. But she basically describes D'Oriel's writing as kind of like bad science fiction. And it is bad science fiction. He copied it from bad science fiction. And yeah, I don't think that through I think one of the reasons that I wanted to write this book is that when people write books about Atlantis, they ignore these bits of it, because the people who want to prove that Atlantis was real don't want to make this public. They might believe it, but they keep it for their bubble.
Yeah.
While the people who are trying to basically debunk Atlantis successfully, generally, hi Milo.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, right. Are essentially ignoring this stuff because it's batshit insane. So no one tells the story of where these things come from. Or at least, so people may have referenced where Maurice D'Oriel, the through line between Robert E. Howard. And actually, you can draw a direct through line from Lord Lytton in the 19th century, friend of Charles Dickens, coiner of the phrase, "It was a dark and stormy night," namesake of the Lord Lytton Award for the worst opening line in fiction, who wrote a book called The Coming Race, which was an early science fiction Lost Lands story, which was a direct influence on Madame Blavatsky, who incorporated its mythology into her religion. Which was then passed around by Lovecraft and his friends in a sort of like, guys, you've got to read this. We can use this for stories.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Lovecraft didn't actually read Madame Blavatsky. Couldn't get through it, which, as anybody who's read Madame Blavatsky will attest, is a perfectly reasonable thing, because, oh my God, it's turgid. But Lovecraft reads this stuff and basically just skims it, and that's where you get the Cthulhu mythos and all those sorts of things. That's where you get the Conan the Barbarian stories and the mythology of Hyboria. First line of the first published Conan the Barbarian story begins with, between the years when Atlantis sank beneath the sea and the rising of the Hyborian era, there walked a man. And that's the introduction of Conan, who treads the thrones of the world beneath his sandaled feet.
Nice.
That's a pretty strong opening, honestly.
Robert E. Howard's stories are patchy. They are crazy racist. But they are really, really easy to read. They are headlong thrill rides. Like, you come out of those stories and you're like, phew. Huh, wow. Like, at the end of the story, you need to take a breath. They're just like breathless. There's a reason that guy is seen as one of the great fantasy writers of the 20th century. Because his stuff, what it lacks in anything moral or literary, it basically has in excitement, genuinely exciting writing. You know, Lovecraft, he had the world building. Robert E. Howard, he had the, his stuff. Yeah. The Shadow Kingdom is actually the first story that features Kull the Conqueror, who's a king of Atlantis who appears in several of his stories.
Whoa.
Who is a tall, muscular, dark-haired, dark-eyed Atlantean barbarian king who likes killing things with axes.
So neat. Conan's counterpart.
Robert E. Howard.
He is the Enkidu to Conan's Gilgamesh.
Robert E. Howard only wrote one sort of protagonist.
Yeah, it was great.
He wrote modern day sort of occult adventure stories, and they star a guy called Steve Costigan. And Steve Costigan, when he sees an eldritch madness creating and horror from before the beginning of time, he pulls out his granddad's Civil War saber and cuts it to pieces.
Yeah.
You know, he is Robert E. Howard, but two-fisted hero. You know, a man who lives by his wits. All of them. And then this sort of pulp fiction feeds into things like Maurice Doreal, and then metastasizes into the cancerous horror of David Icke. And incidentally, I could also talk for hours on David Icke and where David Icke came from, and I actually have. I can probably send you the talk I did about David Icke if you're interested at some point.
Please, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, what was I? It's like, yeah, all right. So it feeds back into these things. So you get Edgar Cayce.
I was also, that was the one that I was waiting for. I was like, when we're gonna, our mom loves Edgar Cayce. She is, this is part of the reason why it's a little sensitive for me. The Atlantis thing is not fun because our mom is someone who believes in it full-throated, and then thus
she is in this
things.
general sphere of conspiracy stuff.
Wow.
It's
Torterra, I think that's what it was called. Just the
she loves
whole
Torterra. Yeah.
Okay, so
thing. The Capitol buildings in every state, they've been here for thousands of years, and they were transmitters for an ancient energy that you could cast with a staff, and this knowledge is lost. This is genuine shit she believes.
Yep. She's got
the ARE has a lot to answer for, honestly.
When I have a memory of being like maybe 8, 9 years old, and my mom telling me about Edgar Cayce, like completely like, no, this dude's totally legit. Like he absolutely, and it wasn't until I was older that I was like, wait, that's complete bullshit. That was just a guy.
I am the child of a spiritualist medium and a formerly practicing occultist.
So you get it.
I get it. And actually also, I get the connection between mental health and these things as well, and mental health comes up a lot. It was really heartening that in the disclaimer that they put in front of the book, they basically say we're not diagnosing anybody in this book. You know, because it's important because there's a lot of diagnoses to be had.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my mum hears voices and has visions, but she was told by a spiritualist church when she was 19 years old that most people wouldn't understand, so she should keep quiet about it, and not all the voices were telling the truth.
Oh.
And I'm not saying that my mum, well, what it did was it kept her out of the mental health system. It allowed her to function in society.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she isn't psychic, but if she is, then we really have to reassess whether 19th century Sioux shamans, like my mum's spirit guide, did actually talk like Indian medicine men in 1950s westerns.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you think that your mom would be able to read Atlantean? Is she on the psychic wavelength?
Did she pass the vibe check?
She's all about vibes and auras. But yeah, we're not talking for lots of reasons, but it's fair to say that seeing the intersection between my mum's behaviour, which if you have a laundry list of the things that a person with fairly severe paranoid schizophrenia goes through, and the experiences that make my mum anxious and unhappy, the Venn diagram's a circle.
Oof.
Sad.
And so growing up with that was not easy. It was, you don't realize how strange it is growing up with that. I'm sure that you understand this, that you don't.
Darren, I didn't know any of the crazy stuff with our mom until like I was 14, 15.
Well, see, this is
she got a lot more open about it around that time. But
my brother is 48 years old and is only now finding out, because she never talked to him about it.
Siblings have different parents is an experience that I have realized as an adult.
Right. So she always trusted me with it. She never trusted him with it.
That sounds like it was probably kind of hard for you.
I mean, it was hard for both of us, but that thing where you have like the mental health, when you look at someone like Edgar Cayce and you think, what's going on with Edgar Cayce? Like, I don't think Edgar Cayce was... There was a grift, but it wasn't a grift.
I definitely wanted to ask this about like all of the different individuals who are deeply, deeply influential in crafting the Atlantean trope, the Atlantean mythos that we have it today. Like, where do you think the line between grifter, someone who's trying to accumulate power through cult, and someone who legitimately believes this, perhaps because they lived in a time where we weren't able to diagnose mental health or neurodivergency?
I think this is important, actually, because the line is very wobbly. Because and also, like, my life history is really, really messy, and unfortunately, so I spent some years in evangelical Christianity, and I actually worked for a church minister, a Baptist minister, who was an abusive crook who sexually harassed his congregants.
Gross.
Allegedly. And he's dead now, but allegedly. And it was fairly apparent to me that what he believed was both sincere, but he also believed that sometimes you have to lie to tell the truth. And I think that there are a lot of these people who write this stuff and are not above fabricating things to support things that they believe to be true. They believe it's real, and so they make evidence to make it real.
They start from the solution and work backwards.
That is something that's super common in like cryptozoology, Bigfoot.
And all of these things, yeah.
Areas, yeah.
So you have people like Edgar Cayce. How much of what Edgar Cayce... You don't lie on a sofa and talk in your sleep every day for 40 years and like people write down what you did, what you mumble, and then send them to people who write letters to you. You don't do that if there isn't at least something making you do that.
Yeah.
You don't do that if there isn't at least something real in that for you. Even if sometimes you're basically lying. In Edgar Cayce, he got in trouble in the courts for this
multiple times.
Multiple times. He had to really, really redo his financial model more than once. Right? You don't do this unless there's something going on there. And like his version of Atlantis is very, very similar to the Atlantis that's in things like Crash Corrigan and the Undersea Kingdom, a Republic serial, which sort of is contemporary with Edgar Cayce. Did Edgar Cayce go to the cinema on a Saturday morning? You know? We don't know. There's no proof of it. But the Republic serial Atlantis, which incidentally is rubbish. It's so rubbish. It's essentially, it's Flash Gordon with the signs painted over.
That's so cringe. You have been through this is a tangent, just a brief one. You've been through the highs and lows of literature, and I have to applaud you with it sounds like just reading about the things you read. Some of them sound like they were legitimately very fun and engaging and entertaining reads, and other things sound like absolute slogs of a nightmare, and yet you soldiered on, and that deserves applause and praise.
So like Madame Blavatsky is an absolute slog and a nightmare. You look at something like The Dweller on Two Planets by Philos the Tibetan, channeled by a 17-year-old boy called Edward Spencer Oliver.
Oliver, oh honey.
And you read it, it's one of the most sad and beautiful things. It is a work of outsider artist poetry about a life in the past in Atlantis. And it's the foundation of pretty much everything about the occult mythologies that surrounds Mount Shasta in California as well, because that's where he lived. And so Mount Shasta in California is a mecca for New Agers. It's because of this guy and his book about Atlantis, basically. And then you get... So Maurice Doreal, there's a guy who definitely a grifter, definitely a crook, but also absolutely sincere in the way he did it. Believed his own mythology. Made it up, but then made himself believe it.
Oh, you believed your own con.
Loved pulp fantasy. Read weird tales. In the 1940s, he read amazing stories. And he wrote into amazing stories when Richard Shaver was writing stories.
I had never heard of Richard Shaver. That was so fascinating and also so devastating. I got angry reading about that.
What is this?
Is this a name that means anything to you, TJ?
No.
Okay, Richard Shaver is the originator of what was called the Shaver Mystery. And it is the mythology of Deros. The idea that there are creatures beneath the earth who manage machines that manipulate the vibrations of people's souls and make them do bad things.
Mm-hmm.
There is a documented schizophrenic delusion called the influencing machine. The idea that there are creatures who are transmitting voices into your head. And Richard Shaver was a man who spent time in and out of psychiatric institutions because he had the influencing machine delusion. And it destroyed his life for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Until
and then he married a witch.
Sorry?
And then he married a witch.
Yes.
Well, the third wife. Okay, she wasn't like a witch, but it mentioned like witchcraft. She's like, okay, honey, like let's tone it down.
Yeah, but she also
I, like helped him, figured out how to help him manage it in a way where it felt like he was able to balance his life a little better. Yeah.
So he started writing his stories down as narratives, and he sent them to Amazing Stories, the pulp magazine. And initially, the first thing he sent was read out loud by the assistant editor to the room, and then theatrically thrown in the bin while everybody laughed at it.
Oh, no.
But the editor-in-chief ran over to the bin, pulled it out, gave the assistant editor a massive dressing down, and is like, do you have any idea what we have here? So he lightly rewrote the story with a science fictional veneer and published it in Amazing Stories with an editorial note that said, this is science fiction, but is it? Oh. Maybe you should write in and tell us your experiences of these phenomena.
Have you been abducted before?
It's giving lost tapes. Like if our cameras capture it and we can't explain it, is it real?
Yes. And this became a sensation. So these stories about Atlantis and Lemuria and related things and about the Deros who lived under the earth became, for a few years, the central thing in Amazing Stories. Maurice Doreal wrote in to confirm that they were true.
Oh, good.
Also, a couple of teenage boys wrote in to said that their turtle, their beloved pet turtle that had died, had come to them both in a dream and had told them it was true as well.
Outstanding.
It is outstanding.
Incredible.
But it saved Richard Shaver's life.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the best film that uses Richard Shaver's mythology in an interesting way is Jordan Peele's film Us, I think.
God, I need to watch Jordan Peele's work. I just have not.
I'm not
I've only ever heard good things about it.
Us is one of my top 10 horror films. It's a great film. But yeah, but that uses the Darrow mythology.
Oh, a little weenie over there.
But yeah, so Shaver... Families.
Yeah.
This saved Shaver's life. Even after the publishers essentially pulled the plug on it because it was bringing the entire publishing house into disrepute. Which is actually not a thing that would happen today.
No, everyone would be super chill with it.
Yeah, right. He basically spent the rest of his life and he was okay after that.
Yeah. I had such mixed feelings because, like, oh, this is a person who is very clearly not well and is, like, acknowledged in society, like, oh, no, you're not well, you've been institutionalized. And the editor of this thing is, like, exploiting him for financial gain. But also, this avenue of channeling what he was experiencing actually, like, did save his life. And so I had such mixed feelings about, also, like, what was happening there.
Ray Palmer exploited him for financial gain, but was also a close, sincere friend of his, to the extent that when the Shaver mystery was pulled, Palmer actually started another magazine so he could keep publishing Richard Shaver's stuff.
Oh, wait, that is a good friend.
Which is Fate magazine, which is still running. It's still a magazine of phenomena. I believe it's still running. But yeah, it's he found some equilibrium. I've got the story of Ray Palmer and Richard Shaver is really complex because they genuinely liked each other.
Uh-huh.
Palmer genuinely liked Richard Shaver, even though he made a buttload of money from him. A metric buttload, in fact.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. She's like, what, 1.6 in American, yeah.
Yeah, 1.6 American ones. Yeah, and that's really the thing. And again, the Shaver mystery is also an ancestor of David Icke's theories as well. This thing, obviously, there's a big section in my book also about like the British versions of this as well.
Which, as Americans, I'm way less familiar with, so I found that so fascinating.
Don't generally get written about. I mean, there are books and books about Richard Shaver and Edgar Cayce and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody has done. This book's about Dion Fortune. I wrote about Dion Fortune in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Lewis Spence was a British guy who wrote about Atlantis stuff. He's interesting. He starts with books. He was a folklorist. He wrote one of the great books about Egyptian mythology. He wrote a book called The Problem of Atlantis, which is basically about, was Atlantis real now? What's it? Oh, I don't know. And then by the fifth book in the series, which is called The Occult Sciences in Atlantis, it reads like he just went right off the cliff.
Yeah, I feel like by the fifth book, maybe you have decided you have you've decided on what side you believe, sir. Sounds like.
But of course, Dion Fortune and Lewis Spence coincide with the period of time where witchcraft finally was decriminalised in the UK as well.
That timing is important.
Which, so in, I think it's 1947, the Witchcraft Act was repealed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is a little side? Do you think that they finally made witchcraft legal because they're just like it's all like not real?
The fear was gone?
Well, no. Witchcraft was made illegal specifically in the 1738 Witchcraft Act because the government decided that it wasn't real, and therefore all people calling themselves witches were con men and con women.
That's crazy.
That's so interesting.
I figured that there was banned due to the fear of it. Like, oh, maybe it is real.
Yeah, so
you don't want to piss off the witches.
Yeah.
So in 1951, the Fraudulent Mediums Act was passed in the United Kingdom, and it legalised mediumship and witchcraft, but it criminalised the pretense as a con trick.
I think that's a reasonable balance.
It said you can be a medium, but if you're using it to bilk people out of their money, it's a crime. It has now been superseded. What's interesting is that in 2008, it was superseded by Schedule 4 of the Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations. 2008. So now, all the rules about witchcraft in British law are covered by consumer protection. And I think that says something about how it's been treated. If a consumer wants to come and buy
your snake oil, they should be allowed to buy your snake oil.
Except they're not.
Oh.
You're not allowed to sell it. Unless...
Okay, so
you have to basically say, if you sell your snake oil, you have to put a label on it in the UK that says it doesn't work.
Outstanding.
See, you're projecting American laws on consumers. And on the British, because that's what it'd be like in the U.S. Well, if you want to buy, you want to buy.
Yeah, no, but in Britain, if you're selling a new age medicine, you have to put a label on it to say that has not been.
Well, we have a label for when something actually works, and it's the FDA label. And so when something doesn't have that, you can just assume it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't trust the FDA. We can't get into this right now. We're talking about
let's not get into that again. We've talked about American politics way too much. But yes,
listen, it's all relevant to this.
We're talking about the British getting to talk about Atlantis finally.
And I think I am, and like I said, a lot of my research, loads of people have written about Madame Blavatsky, loads of people have written about David Icke. Loads of people have written about Richard. A few people have written about Richard Shaver. There's a very good book called War in Lemuria by Richard Toronto, which was one of the two main sources for me for Richard Shaver, as well as Richard Shaver's own writing, which, oh my God! Because Richard Shaver also had some kinks.
Oh,
outstanding.
That kind of, oh my God.
He had a hypnosis kink, and he had a giant women kink.
I can get one of the two of those.
All right,
I'm not going to ask which of those, because that's not. It's not this. I don't know if this is a family podcast, but like.
Explicit, but the family member is here, and I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no kink shaming, obviously.
No kink shaming. No,
perhaps
never.
a tiny bit of kink.
The issue is
why, but
that sometimes it's paired with vor, and I don't like that. Most of the time.
Just, no, I'm hijacking the conversation. You remind me. Am I correct? Fortune's Sea Princess. I think that was the one.
The
of the
Sea Priestess. Yes.
Sea Priestess. Thank you.
It's brilliant.
That's one of the ones. I remember you stating, if I'm remembering this right, that this is one of the ones that you're like, hey, if you just not even interested in Atlantis, I actually recommend this book. This one slaps. Like, is that correct?
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with it, but it slaps. It's a great book. It is a banger. It's of its time. It has a number of things in it that you read and you go, that's from the 1930s.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a beautiful piece of early feminism, and it's fascinating how it goes. And it's just beautifully written. Dion Fortune. I know I've had friends who were ritual magicians. Actually, it's dedicated to a notorious necromancer. The book is dedicated to my friend Jake, who was a notorious necromancer who passed away in 2023. Oh. Yeah, he was a man who lived hard and died hard. He was a hell of a guy, and
he just couldn't reach the end goal of necromancy, I guess.
DJ, you just fucking say that.
The first time I ever met him, I said to him, I couldn't think about what to say to him. I'd read his edition of the True Grimoire, and I couldn't think about what to say to him when I was introduced to him the very first time, and I said, "Have you robbed any graves lately?" And he said, "Maybe." And we were friends ever from that point.
That's the best answer you can give if you're a necromancer meeting someone who's only ever read your grimoire and they ask you if you love green. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, commitment to the bit. We respect.
It was one of the source materials in Ari Aster's horror film Hereditary. But Ari Aster fucked up some of the sigils deliberately because he didn't want anybody trying to summon a demon. And Jake was really upset by that. Because Jake was like, no, don't you understand? That's worse. And
if you fuck up the symbols, you'll summon something even worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang, that's actually a really good point. No, you know what? Yeah, Jake's right. Jake was right.
But yeah. So Jake Stratton, God, I love that guy. He is such a great guy, and we actually vibed more on the fact that we both played tabletop games. Like that was the main point at which we vibed. Anyway,
true
but he wanted me to write
around
this book.
The dice.
He wanted me to write this book, and he was like, "When are you getting that proper Atlantis book written, John?"
Yeah.
And so I think the only piece of really extended original research I've got in this book is about Murray Hope. And I wish more people knew about Murray Hope, because her story is hilarious, but also tragic. It's so tragic.
I want to fight her first husband in a Walmart parking lot. Like, that's where I'm at.
And the second one.
Yeah, him too, but he doesn't get, to know I'm coming. He just gets jumped at the Denny's.
Right. So, of course, again, DJ probably needs some context here.
Nothing. I know nothing about this Murray Hope.
You wouldn't know about Murray Hope. Was a prolific writer of occult and esoteric and New Age texts in the United Kingdom from the 1970s through to her almost up to her death. She died in 2016. She has a really, really interesting story. She was an evacuee in the Second World War. She was sent from London to Liverpool, and she grew up in a Catholic orphanage in the Second World War.
Oof.
On the day of her confirmation in Liverpool Cathedral, as the bishop placed his hand on her head to, do the confirmation vow, the confirmation blessing, she had a vision of her true father, the ancient king of Atlantis, Helio Arcaniphus.
Yes.
What a life.
Yes.
Who she would continue to have visions of for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
She, after the Second World War, she entered into the Women's Auxiliary Air Force for a bit. Married an Air Force guy called Tony Neate. This was in the period where if you were of a certain age and you were a young man, you had to go into the military for a year or two. National service. They kept it up until about 1960. They've still got it in South Korea. It's what happened to BTS for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Listen,
we've got
technically
K-pop
the war's
now.
not over. You gotta have a standing
are.
army.
Yeah, you got to have a standing army. She met this guy called Tony Neate. She left the Women's Auxiliary Air Force. She became a professional opera singer. She was a professional soprano for a living.
Oh, whoa.
Nice.
She'd spent some time as a horse girl, as an ostler for horses for a bit as well. But she became a professional opera singer. So very interesting career trajectory.
Yeah.
She and this guy, Tony Neate, who she married, founded a group called the Atlanteans to basically promote the teachings of Helio Arcaniphus in London and the United Kingdom.
Outstanding. Love to see it. Love to see it.
Wait for it.
But by 1957, she discovered also that there was a book that had been knocking around the New Age scene called Atlantis Rising by the mysterious Daphne Viggers, about who I know very little is known. Very little has been I've been able to find very little. And there's very little that's sort of in the public record about Daphne Viggers. I'm sure that there's someone out there who remembers. If your grandmother was Daphne Viggers and you're listening to this podcast, please contact me. I'd love to know more about her.
We can make this happen.
She wrote a book called Atlantis Rising in 1944. And Atlantis Rising is about her vision. She travels back in time to Atlantis and meets the king of Atlantis, Helio Arcan.
Oh.
Coincidence? Because actually, you've got the word arcane and you've got the word helio, meaning the sun, right? And it's Greek because Atlantis is sort of Greek, right? It's not completely outside of the realms of possibility that it's a coincidence. But the Atlanteans were like, we're not the only ones in touch with him. Tony Neate started getting messages from Helio Arcaniphus.
Oh, yeah, cool, man. Definitely, you should get involved in this.
And other people in the Atlanteans started getting messages from Helio Arcaniphus, and Murray Hope and Tony Neate started basically vetting them. And then Hope's marriage fell apart. But she stayed in the cult because, it was a cult. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
This is
it's
how
hard
I know.
To leave.
There are reasons why I know it was a cult. One is a lot of the books of Helio Arcaniphus, as written by Tony Neate, basically deny negative emotions or doubting a lot.
Classic.
Yeah, it's classic cult behavior.
But also, what happens to Murray Hope after she and Tony divorce?
Oh, yeah.
This bit, and of course, obviously, Darien, they've read this bit, and you can sort of see the dread written on your face at this bit of the story. But what happened was this. She was taken into a meeting with Tony and Tony's new wife, Anne, and at least one other person, because two of the men in the Atlanteans had proposed marriage to Murray. And you also got to bear in mind, Murray Hope, oh my God, she served. Okay, she was
absolute looker.
Yeah, no, like the picture on the book of her book Daughter of Atlantis from 1957, which is basically her autobiography of an Atlantean princess. The picture on the back, she is stunning. So she's stunning. Even pictures of her in her 40s and 50s and 60s, she's still a fine, a conventionally beautiful woman.
Oh yeah.
Even in old age, a beautiful woman. All right. She had numerous men wanting to date her because she was hot. And one of the reasons that her marriage fell apart with Tony Neate was that she was, from what I could figure out from her autobiography, asexual.
As an ace girly myself, the evidence you presented in my book checks out.
Yes, she describes as for one thing, she has the wonderful formulation in one part of her. She said it several times that she's just not interested in sex. But my favourite bit is where she said, "If you offered me the option of a night of unbridled passion or a nice cup of tea, I'll have the cup of tea, thank you."
That's so fucking relatable.
Understandable.
Right. I mean, not to DJ, but to me.
No, certainly
But
not.
she was also infertile as well.
Oof.
So she didn't want kids.
Yeah, but like that combination in that period of time.
People thought she wasn't a proper woman.
Rude.
But then she also kind of felt that she wasn't really... She didn't see herself as fully female either. Which again, in her autobiography, she talks about not seeing herself as fully male or female. And she talks about how she gets on with people, but then people notice there's something off with her and they don't actually understand it. And sometimes she doesn't understand social mores and she doesn't get sarcasm and things. And essentially she writes this entire thing and then says, "This is proof that I'm an alien in a human body." Because she says, unlike many other psychics, she's only ever had 2 past lives.
Way to have some restraint.
One of them was as Philostronia, the daughter of Helioarcanithus in Atlantis. And the other was as a cat person from Sirius who brought civilization to the human race in eons past.
Nice.
This is why in her book, she doesn't talk about humans, human beings. She talks about hominids.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's a feline.
I just think that feeling as if inside you are a celestial cat being from beyond the stars is just a very neurodivergent experience. Honestly, I wish, man... Mary Hope, I wish you and I had gone to middle school together. We would have been friends.
Just a little. Just a little.
I would have loved the Warrior Cat series.
She was autistic. She was evidently completely autistic. And the way in which she describes her experience repeatedly in her autobiography is the autistic experience. But of course, she comes from a period where such a thing was
the
not.
40s.
The 40s.
You just got demons in your blood.
Yeah.
You're hysterical.
By the 90s and the 2000s, where autism started to become something that people talked about,
her autobiography is called The Changeling.
Yeah. Because she's an alien in a human form. I mean, and in fact, there are entire books which I've got. I'm gonna do a sort of side project actually about Murray Hope's Cat People books as well. Because she has entire books where she has conversations with her first owner. And
listen, before we started recording, I posited my belief that I think Murray Hope would have thrived on Tumblr. And I would like to double down and commit to that. Like maybe she would not have like gravitated to like the gender identity stuff because she would have been like, I cannot be defined. But like, the meeting other artists, talking to people, having a niche popular I do feel that
she would have been on the problematic end though.
Probably, but that doesn't mean she wouldn't have found her people there. Not to say it would
She'd
have
have
been
found
good,
her people and probably would have had a happier life, I think. Because she was pulled in to this meeting with her ex-husband's
right,
new
let's get
wife,
back to the bad
who
thing.
she'd introduced to her ex-husband
and
a couple other people. And they channeled Helio-Arcaniphus at her and told her that it wasn't right that a woman like her was distracting the men.
Oh, so bad.
And so she had to marry one of them.
Oh,
she had to marry Michael Thorburn, who was one of the other men who had... Michael Thorburn married her and then revealed after the marriage that he was epileptic. And so she had to give up her career and be his carer.
That's crazy. You hate to see it.
It's also, you're right. It's also on site with Michael. Also,
according to Hope's autobiography, he was allegedly a wife beater. And verbally and emotionally abusive as well.
As one.
It was only in the late 70s that she was able to escape from him and from the Atlanteans. And part of that is because she got a latter-day job writing for Prediction magazine, which was, back in the day, a very popular, hugely circulated magazine of occult and astrology. It was the place where occult news happened. I kept all of my dad's old copies that survived, the ones that my mum didn't chuck out. And then managed to sort of like buy up over the space of about 20 years an entire run from 1976 to 1986 of this magazine.
Nice.
That is impressive.
Yeah. Including some copies from the 1960s, including the immortal one where someone writes a letter in saying, John Lennon says the Beatles are more popular than Jesus. Do you think that's the case? And the person who's running the problem page responds, well, no one's going to remember the Beatles in 2,000 days, let alone 2,000 years. And don't you just love it when a magazine called Prediction makes a take like that?
Incredible.
I love Prediction. There's also so much in it. But she took over the problem page in Prediction, at first under a pseudonym of Athena Williams.
That's
eventually started writing articles under her own steam, and then was invited to write books about Celtic magic, about ancient Greek magic, and about Atlantean magic, and about whether Atlantis was real. And her book about whether Atlantis was real it's an awkward, spiky thing, but it's written by someone who basically goes through people like Edgar Cayce and Frederick Spencer Oliver, and basically evaluates, and Madame Blavatsky and Rudolf Steiner. And we haven't even talked about Rudolf Steiner, but she evaluates them based upon how much they vibe with what she remembers of living in Atlantis.
What a great metric to operate off of, honestly.
So
sure.
I'm reading a past life, and I'm gonna see if any of this was actually true.
And the thing is, a lot of these people will tell you about what's interesting. A lot of the men, not so much Frederick Oliver. His book is just a beautiful. It's like you could sort of imagine it as a sort of fantasy slice of life anime.
Outstanding.
Oh,
it's sort of like, I don't know if you've ever seen the anime Frieren. It sort of has that kind of vibe,
Frieren.
right? Yeah, I like that one too. But it has that kind of vibe to it. But most of the men who write these things, and also Madame Blavatsky, they want to tell you about the Atlantean doomsday weapons, and about Atlantean kings and politics, and about, great social things and great men and all of that stuff. Murray Hope will tell you what an Atlantean ate for breakfast. Murray Hope will describe an Atlantean family's trip to the beach. She describes an Atlantean family's trip to the beach. They all get in the family chariot, and then like the little sister has a tantrum because she wants to sit next to her brother, and dad says no, let her. And then they go to the beach and they put on their Atlantean swimming costumes, and dad actually turns out to be quite good at beach volleyball. It's amazing.
Atlantean beach holiday. I would
an
not have
Atlantean
expected.
beach holiday.
That's
She talks about a trip. Honest to God, a trip of an Atlantean family to the beach. That's what the sort of thing Murray Hope writes. You want to know what color Atlantean priests' robes were, and what the colors signified? She's your lady, right? She's your non-binary cat person furry. She is. She's the non-binary furry who will tell you. She absolutely, genuinely, and sincerely remembered this stuff. Right. I do not think there is a single bit of grift in anything Murray Hope writes. And she's not gonna lie, you will read her books and you will be like, oh, you're also my racist auntie. But there is a bit of that, and that's true. And this is the complexity of these people. In writing this book, I have found myself sympathizing with these people and understanding them as humans, while at the same time understanding that they got some opinions that I'm not going to be able to accept.
Yeah.
And of all of them, Jacqueline Murray Hope was my favourite, I think, because I really feel for her, and I don't think she'd want my pity.
No, she would fight you in cat form.
Yeah, she'd fight me. She wouldn't like me, but I feel for Murray Hope. I feel compassion for her. The way in which she was treated, the way in which she was abused by the cult that she set up.
Yeah.
Crazy. You really hate to see that.
And they're still around. They're called the College of Healing now.
Ooh.
Helio Arcanathus pieced out in 2011.
They decided that the Atlantis thing wasn't like selling anymore, so they rebranded.
They rebranded as the College of Healing, and now they do New Age healing seminars. But they still sell compilations, best ofs of Helio Arcanathus's books. And I've got their best of compilation.
You'd have to.
I also have one of their. I've also got. I did actually go to the College of Healing website and bought some of their books. But I've in research for this. But also I have one of my most treasured possessions is a 1960s pamphlet by Helio Arcanathus.
Nice.
It's really interesting that Tony Neat's Helio Arcanathus is very different to Murray Hope's.
I'm sure.
His is very much Grandma Simpson shaking his fist at the sky. I think one of the things that we don't fully appreciate about the New Age movement in the UK is how conservative it was until the 1970s. So while in the US, by the end of the Summer of Love, the New Age movement and all its crystals and stuff were part of the hippie era and the counterculture.
Yeah.
In the UK, the occult and the New Age was largely the premise of the middle and upper classes.
Interesting.
And by middle class people and people aspiring to be middle class. So people like Aleister Crowley and Dion Fortune and people like that were essentially poshos who were eccentric, but they were posh. You get someone like Murray Hope. Murray Hope is very much a product of Middle England, product of that very conservative England. She had no time, she's in her 30s by the time the Beatles drop, and she's got no time for that sort of nonsense, right? She's no time for that. It's like, she's classical music will ride or die.
Yeah.
Again, she's got some very autistic ideas, taste of things, right? But and that conservatism comes through I mean, Tony Neat before he died was. I think I found his Facebook profile, and one of the last things on Facebook before he died, he's sort of saying something great about how great Brexit is going to be. But
yeah, that's on brand for him.
Yeah, and it is on brand for him. So Helio Arcaniphus, as Tony Neat writes, is really conservative. Really conservative. So,
would you say that perhaps Tony Neat was one of the ones that mayhaps was maybe more on the side of grift than on the side of true believer?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I think Tony Neat was someone who was more interested in politics. And so his conservative politics essentially molded his esoteric activities in a way that Murray Hope's did not. Murray Hope was, my past lives are real and this is what I remember. And, oh, by the way, I've always voted Tory. But it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. For her, she's like, these are my real experiences. And these matter more. Helio Arcaniphus will make a pronouncement about how pop music is basically corrupting the young.
Neat.
While Murray Hope will write about a trip to the beach.
Yeah, it's very different the way the Atlantean concept, the trope, is being employed by these two people.
Yeah, absolutely. So her version of Atlantis, it's like, yeah, she is a bit racist. Yeah, she does have conservative politics. Yeah, she doesn't really understand her sexuality and gender in a way that we would frame it now, let alone her neurodivergence. But she was very much someone who basically just had these politics and probably would have had different politics if she was born from a different time in a different place. I don't like the term a man or woman of their time. I feel it's used to excuse far too much.
Yeah.
H.P. Lovecraft. But
well, we talked about that gentleman earlier that was writing incredibly progressive concepts on race in his Atlantics text. And
Ignatius Donnelly.
Ignatius Donnelly.
Thank you. 1870s, right? Yeah.
If he in the 1870s can be on that,
right? H.P. Lovecraft was not a man of his time. Even his own friends wrote to him and said, seriously, Howard, no, Kieran, steady on, mate. I mean, this is a man who wrote a letter to one of his friends saying, I don't know about that Hitler guy's methods, but my heart's with him.
Yikes! Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft sucks.
Yeah, right. So, Murray Hope's points of view, politics, are not strongly held. They were not passionately held. It was her experiences that the thing that held her passion. Her life in Atlantis and her life as a cat person from Sirius. Which, it's really hard to talk about it without it sounding hilarious, right?
It's inherently silly.
But at the same time, she is absolutely sincere about it.
Yeah.
And for her, it is a thing of profound beauty. And she loves it. And when she's writing about this, she writes with love about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is why I really want people to read her story particularly.
Yeah.
Which is
you gave her the grand finale of your book. Like, this is her experiences are your last chapter. We have an epilogue that kind of gets into the 21st century, but
which is depressing.
Yeah, of course.
But I found ending on her experiences such an interesting choice to make in this like chronology of the way the Atlantis story has molded and shaped and has been in like conversation, as you said, with pop culture and occultists and the way it's been weaponized. And it ends on this woman who just had this deep love for the things in her head that she viewed as her memories, right? And I don't know, as the reader, I felt like your love for Atlantis was coming through in that section at the very end. Like the love you had and all the love you brought to all of, again, I said, like the impression of like how impressive it is that you went through the highs and lows of reading these sometimes great, sometimes terrible texts. Like this whole text is a labor of love. And I thought it was really profound to end on the story of a person who loved it.
Yeah, and I think so. I think because obviously the sort of epilogue, I sort of talk about pop culture as well, which is really sort of what your podcast is about. So,
yeah,
you know,
we talk about a lot of things.
Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Disney's Atlantis.
Peak. Huge fan.
Peak.
Yeah, a great movie. One of the two times.
Kida. The fact that she's not considered an official princess in the merch is rude.
That's insane, dude. What the hell? She's literally the princess.
The movie didn't make
Atlantis.
enough money.
What the hell?
That's all
I think it was one of two attempts that Disney made to make animated movies for a slightly older audience.
Mm-hmm.
The other one being The Black Cauldron.
The famous flop almost destroyed the animation. That's
Treasure
the first
Planet.
thing I watched when Disney Plus launched. I was like, I gotta watch The Black Cauldron.
Yeah, right. I hadn't seen it until a few years ago.
Atlantis is so much better than The Black Cauldron.
It is better.
I'm gonna go on a limb.
It was designed by Mike Mignola, the Hellboy guy.
Oh yeah,
and you can sort of see the hands of the characters look like the hands of a Hellboy comic.
It does.
It's a terrible sequel.
Well, because it's supposed to be a TV series.
Yeah, it's the 3 episodes of a TV show.
You do hate to see when they keep doing that. That's what they did with Moana, right? Moana 2 was technically supposed to be a series.
I had a nickel.
The epilogue is basically me talking about movies that I watched a bunch of movies that have Atlantis in and read a bunch of comics.
Mm-hmm.
So I know more about Aquaman than I ever wanted to.
Yeah.
Did you watch Atlantis Stargate?
Stargate Atlantis.
Yeah.
I've never actually made it through an episode of that, but I felt that it's sort of, I feel it's peripheral.
I didn't ever get to it. I got really into Stargate SGU during the pandemic because my roommate was like, we're going to watch Stargate Atlantis. It's the better one. But first we have to watch this. And anyway, he broke up with my other roommate and then we had to kick him out. And I just never got to start. So I was also hoping, like, will you tell me if Stargate Atlantis is worth my time? It's not even mentioned.
I haven't watched it. But,
fair.
I read, so it's interesting that both Marvel and DC have a superhero from Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
But because DC got their Atlantean superhero onto films first.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Momoa. God, that guy.
Classic.
Oh.
Now Lobo, right?
Yeah, now he's
excited
Lobo,
for him to get to be Lobo.
Yeah, I know, but his abs, though. Anyway, sorry.
Good-looking fella.
My own sexuality is coming out now. But yes, but Atlantis Lost. You got Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which has a lot of stuff that I think I describe it as that the Atlanteans being the sort of people that Murray Hope would have known. Like, like there is a bit of that. It makes some choices. You've got Milo. It's got a white guy turns up and explains to them their own language.
Yeah,
crazy, little nutty.
There was a BBC TV series called Atlantis, as well, which was in that period where Doctor Who had blown up again.
Mm-hmm.
And the BBC went through a whole series of thinking, we could do family-level fantasy sci-fi, fantasy adventure shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did Merlin.
I was a Merlin girly.
Had the late Anthony Head as Uther Pendragon.
Mm-hmm.
And they had 3 seasons of a Robin Hood reboot. And 3 seasons of The Three Musketeers. And
Sherlock.
They also had 2 seasons of Atlantis.
Only 2?
Yeah, it didn't do very well.
Oh.
But Atlantis on the BBC version was a place where Greek mythology happens.
Yeah, isn't it Jason From the Argonauts?
Yeah, except he's also from the 21st century, although that's never referenced after the first episode.
Okay.
He sort of
I love British television.
He's swimming in the Mediterranean, and he falls down a hole under the sea and winds up in Atlantis thousands of years ago. But they never reference the fact. I think basically the premise is basically that Jason is essentially there in order to sort of go, but guys, why is Medusa like this? All that sort of thing. But essentially they never reference it after the first episode.
That's funny.
I think. Oh yeah, for Vampire, Lestat went to Atlantis as well.
Yeah, he's fucking Atlantean spirit. I'm like, okay, Anne Rice, I must not have read that one.
Prince Lestat and the Realms of Atlantis largely. I don't think I say this in the book, but it's largely regarded by Anne Rice's fans as the Vampire Chronicles book that's probably the one you could skip.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
When the Submariner got into a Marvel movie, they actually renamed Atlantis. They called it something else because they didn't want to copy Aquaman.
Yeah, I did like that as a vibe, just getting, instead of a Greek underwater Atlantis city,
South American, Mesoamerican themed, which is on brand. Yeah, it's on brand because Mesoamerica, Egypt, and Greece are like the three vibes that people stick on Atlantis.
Yeah,
but Atlantis doesn't tend to stick.
No,
and now Atlantis is largely on TikTok. Graham Hancock doesn't talk about Atlantis, right? Even the most recent, I think, significant esoteric book about Atlantis, which has been Gordon White's Starships. Gordon White died recently, but he was a transphobe and a COVID denier. So, but Starships doesn't mention Atlantis once, which is wild for a book written by a ritual magician, honestly.
Is it seeking respectability?
I think it is. Starships is interesting because it sort of says a bunch of stuff in it that's basically sounds kind of anti-racist, but he sort of takes great care to go, a lot of this seems anti-racist, but really you have to understand, no, it is racist and I'm trying to be racist here. So
that's just rude, honestly.
All right, like
he doesn't even mention Atlantis. He doesn't even have the courage of his convictions.
Atlantis, yeah. Largely it's on the social media like YouTube and TikTok that Atlantis stuff happens. I mean, the particular favorite example of that, and the one that I sort of talk about most in the end of the book, is Space Barbie, Valeria Lukianova.
Yeah.
So the human Barbie doll from the Ukraine, who sort of gained some notoriety on social media and went a bit viral in 2016 because people are like, she's had her entire body to look like exactly like a Barbie doll, with like inhumanly thin arms and neck and waist and enormous boobies, and her face plastic surgery towards an inch of humanity. But what people left out was the fact that she actually runs a cult, and she claims to be the reincarnation of an Atlantean priest king. No, a Lemurian priest king called Amatu.
Oh, mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's also... She's a Ukrainian New Ager. She is a fascist, right? She's like... She's in the Epstein files. This dropped after.
Crazy.
I can't believe we are. Listen. We talked about the looming fact that Atlantis is haunted by
right-wing figures,
alt-right Nazi conservative evil, and now the Epstein files.
Yeah, she never met Jeffrey Epstein, but she is talked about in the Epstein files. When this came out, she posted online, basically saying, "Yes, I'm in the Epstein files." She posted on Instagram with a AI picture of herself standing next to Jeffrey Epstein for some reason. But she basically maintained that they only talked about her, that they never met, and also The Epstein files describe her as a racist because of a profile written about her in GQ magazine. The Epstein files describe her as clearly someone who understands white supremacy properly, right? And she was offended by this. She says, "I am not a racist, and neither was my past life Maria Orsich." Maria Orsich was the Atlantean channeling occultist who was one of the founding members of the Thule Society.
Oh, neat. Oh, cool.
The early Nazi occult group.
Classic.
And
also,
it always comes back.
Valeria Lukinova doesn't believe in miscegenation either.
Please, no.
That you go to YouTube, you look for Atlantis stuff, and 99% of it is AI slop from start to finish.
Yeah. And that's embarrassing. And that's embarrassing. You're going to do Atlantis, this narrative that we as a society across the West have decided to keep alive through, honestly, whether it's a grift or whether it's honest belief, it's incredible world building. And now we're going to just let the robots churn it out?
Right.
Well, it's because it's the right? The right wing is super into the AI generative
the people
kind
on
of stuff.
TikTok are all that the people on TikTok who are channeling Atlanteans are all on the right. The woke people, there are woke New Agers and there are woke woo people all over the internet, but the woke woo people aren't the ones channeling Atlanteans.
And now actually, I'm glad you mentioned the AI thing, because that was one thing I wanted to get angry about, because I'm always looking for reasons to yell about AI on the internet. For both. Real, but no, the fact that we're going to let AI take over this story that we have worked so hard to keep alive when it had no business staying around. And so actually that works as a great thriller, because the question I wanted to ask is, Sean, do you think, going back to the beginning of this, if Plato had finished those dialogues, would we be here today?
No.
Yeah?
It wouldn't. The air of mystery just wouldn't be there.
Because he'd have actually said what the point was. He'd have had people basically. I believe personally, and this is my opinion, and I have a feeling that many reputable scholars will find reasons as to why I'm wrong. But I believe that Plato was setting up Critias to have Socrates essentially mic drop him and tell him why he was wrong, and to just basically go, yeah, but this is bullshit, Critias. I think Critias was being set up to be proven wrong, but since the final line of the Critias by Plato is, "And then Zeus stood up before the assembly of the gods and spake as follows," we're never gonna know.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, DJ, you're right. That's the mystery. Zeus says what? What about Atlantis? What are we doing? Oh. And now we're here in AI slop land.
Yeah.
But you know what's not AI slop? Your kick-ass cover of your excellent book. Before we started recording, you were about to tell us about the inspiration. I was like, hold on, we gotta talk about this on the episode, because we were given an e-copy, and I'm going to go out and buy the physical copy.
I love the cover. I do actually love the cover illustration.
Gorgeous.
I love the cover illustration. I write for a publisher.
It's your backdrop in this recording.
It's my backdrop in this video. Yeah, in this video call, I used it as my backdrop. The publisher's designer wrote to me an email and basically said, "What do you want on the front of your Atlantis book? What design elements do you want?" And I said, "Okay, it's important to me that it not be blue and that it not be under the sea, because every freaking Atlantis book ever has a cover that's blue and under the sea." And they wrote back and they were like, "Sean, if you do that, no one's going to buy it because they won't know it's an Atlantis book."
Okay, yeah.
Can we do something to make you happier with it, though? And then I'm like, well, I sent them some pictures of stuff from I sent them pictures of a cover of Amazing Stories. I sent them an illustration that I had done myself of an Atlantean airship a while back, and which they've actually successfully reproduced, flying through tubes.
Yeah, it's got the tube thing.
And I'm like, put something Lovecraftian in there, put the sci-fi airships there, put the weird space stuff on it. So essentially what you've got is you've got an undersea city, but it's a really sort of pulpy undersea city with like weird sci-fi ships floating around it and like enormous sort of cyclopean tentacles and stuff wreathing it. And what I was saying was that they've actually done the thing where the tentacles, as the title of the book and the tentacles are in a glossy varnish, spot varnish, while the rest of the book is sort of got a matte cover. And I'm really looking forward to getting it into my hands because it's such a great cover. And and one of the things that I'm really glad of is that my publisher has a disclaimer in the front basically saying we do not use AI at any point in our process. And, you know, we don't publish AI written stuff. And
hell yeah.
Nice.
I wrote a successful book some years ago about folk horror movies. And it was called We Don't Go Back. And this book is probably the most successful thing I've ever done in 25 years as a writer. And I found out that it's been scraped by Meta. Meta AI scraped it.
No! Oh! That's fucking
rough.
heartbreaking. I'm so sorry.
It's on the list of things that Meta AI scraped. There was a list and it was there. I have books. Several of my books from like my various eras of my life have been scraped by AI. This one probably will be scraped by AI eventually, but you know, the moment it gets onto Kindle. But no part of it had anything to do with AI. So
fuck Meta, fuck AI, fuck the Nazis.
Yeah, Crosscrow Books opposes the unauthorized use of AI to reproduce, analyze, or train models on this work. Any attempts to use this book in whole or in part for data mining, machine learning, or AI training purposes is prohibited. I don't know how much good that will do, but I love that they put that there.
Our show notes in every single episode has a thing about how no portion of this episode may be used for AI training purpose or creating like also that. I don't know how much good it does, but like just to be explicit,
Darren has no idea that I've been training an AI on her voice.
I'm going to fight you.
I mean, is there anything else you'd want to ask about Atlantis though? Because I think we've sort of covered a lot.
Yeah, DJ, do you have, as someone again who has not had the opportunity to experience this book yet, after everything we've talked about here, do you have any Atlantis thoughts?
You know, I wanted to see if there's any games that I had participated in or played that had Atlantis in it. And really, not particularly, not in like a meaningful way. It was like, oh, yes, Atlantis. But I did happen to stumble across Atlantis, the Lost Empire, Trials by Fire. And it's literally you're playing as Milo Thatch as a first-person shooter through the events of Atlantis.
The best thing
That's
I
crazy.
ever wrote was a tabletop fantasy role-playing game called Chariot.
Nice.
And it's about Atlantis.
Heck yeah.
Can I buy that? Is that available to buy?
It's available. You can download it for free on DriveThru RPG.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, fantastic.
It uses tarot cards instead of dice. I believe it's
Can you use any tarot card deck for this?
Yeah.
Oh no, Holden, you're making a face. Is it not actually good?
No. Well, the mechanics aren't great, but it has the best writing I've ever written. Right.
Oh my god, I'll do that.
The mechanics might need a tweak, but the writing isn't the writing. The writing is. I occasionally look back at Chariot and go, how did I ever write that? This is beautiful. But I've never written anything as good as that. And nobody bought it. But
no,
because that's
I'll buy it. Well, I guess I'll
works.
download it for free. But
download it for free.
Sean, thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
This was awesome.
Incredible. Where can the book is not out today as of the episode coming out because I want all of our listeners to go and pre-order Atlantis Through Time. Where can they do that?
Any bookshop site. I've been being completely normal about it and have Googled it repeatedly, but basically both in Britain and the US, all of the bookshops have it up for pre-order. So if you want to get it from Barnes & Noble, you want to get it from Waterstones in the UK, you want to get it from esoteric bookshops, you want to get it from mainstream bookshops, you even want to get it from that enormous website that's run by the guy who thinks that human beings shouldn't be drinking water because it's keeping it from the AI machines. Sure, if you have to.
Hey, it's the first available link to buy something on. I just Googled Atlantis through time. You get the AI summary of Atlantis. You get the Wikipedia page for Atlantis. And then you get the Amazon page for your book. And then I get a couple of videos. Yeah. And then I get Better World Books, Bookshop, and Barnes & Noble's all for your books.
Perfect.
So you can download it there.
Perfect. And where else can our listeners find you and follow your fascinating works in life?
Okay, so I have a Patreon, which costs $1 to subscribe to and gives you access to about 1 million words of material. That's not an exaggeration, because I've been doing it for a long time. And
wonderful.
Much of my writing is about media, because also, like I said, my most successful works actually up to this point has been writing about film and television.
Fine. You ever thought about doing like Substack?
Yeah, occasionally. I'm not got around to doing it. Substack still got that. Substack has a problem with groups of people that we don't like to talk about anymore. But yeah, I've thought about it. But you're not the first person who said he thought about doing Substack. So patreon.com/room207 press.
Why?
That is such a long story.
Oh, we don't have. You know what? That's fair. I bet if they support you on Patreon, they can find out though.
Yeah, probably. But
perfect.
Yeah, and that's where I can be found. You can find their fiction. You can find stuff from that period of life where I was paid to be a professional poet by my alma mater. You can find stuff from when I wrote role-playing games, and there's an awful lot of stuff about movies. I've been writing a lot about Japanese movies about giant monsters recently as well.
Go.
That's my thing.
Excellent.
Several of those movies have Atlantis things in them.
Yeah, I bet
Atlantis turns up in Godzilla movies.
It's everywhere. It's like glitter. It got into everything.
It's like glitter that gets into everything. But also like glitter, no one actually goes out of the way to buy glitter. It's always an extra.
Yeah, you always just have it already.
You just
have
never
bought this.
And that's what Atlantis is. People don't go out of the way to buy Atlantis stuff. It's just that bit of extra that people.
But you should go out of your way to buy this book.
Please buy that book. I mean, I've been, my advance was against royalties, but if I sell enough copies, I'll start getting more royalties. So please,
listen. We have many authors who have been on the show before. We support our author friends. Let's go. Also, this book kicks ass. I literally was given a free copy, and I will go buy the physical copy so I can have one. I'm
so grateful to hear that. You guys, it's been so lovely talking to you.
And this has been wonderful.
The sort of dynamic between you, sort of like they're going, oh no, I've been waiting for this bit, and you there going,
I have no idea what's going on. Let's go.
Sorry. Yeah, and that sort of dynamic just warms.
I'm so glad you had fun.
Yeah.
Warms my gay little heart. It's just so there. Right. So yeah.
Also,
thank you
real
so
quick,
much.
when does the book come out? What day?
The book's all right. So the book's official release date on those streets they have there is the 14th of July.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, it's in the warehouse, and as I understand it, it's going out to distributors. So you may be able to pick up a copy before the release date.
Maybe the distributor, maybe Barnes & Noble's just puts it out.
but the publisher's official release, Crosscrow Books' official release date is the 14th of July. And also shout out to them. They have been such a fantastic publisher. They've been so
love to hear
nice and so accommodating. Even when I was about 10 months late with my draft. They all the
What a
time
mood.
they were like, you know what? We'd rather have a good book than a book that's on time.
Hey, that's cool.
They were fantastic all the way. They've hooked me up with podcasts like you guys. They have been really proactive in supporting me. I just have really good experience with them. So shout out to Blake Malloway and all the others at Crosscrow Books.
Support a cool author, support a good publisher. There's not, from what I understand from like BookTube, most publishers are kind of evil. So let's go support one that seems like they're pretty cool.
I've fallen on my feet. So there we are.
Hey. So thank you again so much, Sean. Thank you all, dear listeners, for joining us. Links to all the things will be so convenient in the show notes. You have no excuse not to at least go to the page and consider the book.
Go see the cover at least. It is really sick.
At least look at the cover. Come on.
Cover.
I'd buy that as a poster.
Judge this book by its cover.
And this in-depth interview.
Yes, that too.
Thank you all so much. We will be back next week for, I promise for realsies, the next Myth episode.
Yeah.
And until then, don't be like Zeus.
Don't be like Zeus.
Muses of Mythology is created and hosted by Darien and DJ Smartt. It's edited by Darien Smartt. The show is produced by Darien and DJ Smartt, as well as
Tim O'Connor, The Crystal Conman, Nicholas Miller, Jeffrey Babbitt. In lasts. Our music is Athens Festival by Martin Hain.
And our cover is by Ran Kapoka. You can find them on Instagram or through the link in our show notes. Want more Muses of Mythology? Support the show on Patreon. Join the Patreon for free for access to outtakes and bloopers from our main feed episodes. Or for $5 a month, you can enjoy our Bunker 9 bonus episodes every other week. Get more at patreon.com/Muses of Mythology.
You can also support the show by leaving a review or tell a friend why you love the show.
Don't forget to check out all of our episodes and episode transcripts at musesofmythology.com.
Thanks for listening.